Thank you for watching Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. Today we take a look at a recent mystery, conspiracy, and possible murder. Was the crew of the Titan murdered? We've all heard in the media how this small sub wasn't properly equipped to go down to the depths of the Titanic, that the pressure tests and quality tests didn't look good for the little sub. Is this the reason why it was crushed under the sea? Or did someone blow it up on purpose? And if so, why would someone want to blow up this sub with its inhabitants? We can assume that if it was blown up, if they were murdered, that it would be because someone didn't want them discovering new evidence in regards to the sinking of the Titanic. Was there something in the water's depths that's been hiding? Some evidence that the Titanic had been sunk on purpose? This would be the only motivation for someone to sabotage this journey, because they didn't want the crew and the captain of the Titan to see that the narrative we've believed all along is a lie. But why would it be a lie? Why would somebody believe that the Titanic didn't sink the way we were told via the giant iceberg ramming a hole in it? Why would someone believe that the Titanic itself had also been sabotaged? Well, in order to trace any major crime, we have to look for what? Motive is always the most important evidence against someone. So what would be the motive for sinking the Titanic? Well, again, the most common motive is money. Let's follow the possible money motives. The Titanic had a sister ship, a twin, a ship that was exactly the same as the Titanic in almost every regard, except for very few small features. The Olympic had the same captain, Captain Edward John Smith. Before the Titanic was launched, the Olympic was already seeing action. On one of its final voyages, the captain, John Smith, accidentally collided with another ship. The media claimed that the damage was minimal, but the crew of the Olympic, as well as many witnesses at the port, testified that the spine of the ship had been horribly damaged. Now, what would be the significance of this? Well, when the spine of a ship is horribly damaged, that ship is no longer seaworthy. It's too difficult of an issue to repair. If these witnesses are correct, J.P. Morgan would have a major issue on his hands. He had invested a large percentage of his fortune into these vessels, and there were issues with the insurance company covering the entire Olympic vessel due to the circumstances of the accident. So, if you're J.P. Morgan and you're sitting there and you've got one ship, the Olympic, which has been damaged so thoroughly that it's no longer seaworthy, and the insurance company will refuse to pay out for that ship, you might be tempted to think of a plan to come up with a conspiracy. It might seem like a good idea to switch the Olympic with the Titanic, send out the Olympic under the Titanic's banner, have it sink under circumstances that you can control, and then you can collect the insurance money correctly. This at the time would be the difference between maintaining your fortune or losing most, if not all of it. Also, at the port where both the ships were housed before the Titanic was launched, other witnesses believed that they had seen people moving objects that would indicate the ship's name from one ship to the other, switching their identities, changing plates, changing outer parts of the vessel, so that way the Olympic would now be the Titanic. At the time of the Titanic's launch, it was also noted that many of the original crew decided to not go on the voyage. Times back then were tough. Money was hard to come by. And yet, many people that were meant to run the Titanic ended up abandoning ship before it was launched. Some even saying that they didn't trust the vessel not to sink. Also, upon the Titanic sinking, there were many strange occurrences that went on. For instance, rescue ships that had been sent out to search for the Titanic and save its inhabitants had already been on the way to the area before it started to sink, as if they were aware that there would be an accident before there was an accident. One of the ships that was sent to rescue the Titanic was apparently on a supply run, and coincidentally, it was quite empty except for having many blankets and food to clothe and house the same number of people that were on the Titanic. Now, If Rockefeller had switched these ships and wanted to collect the insurance money correctly, what if he had someone secure an explosive device to the side of the Titanic? What if it didn't hit an iceberg? If that were the case, there would be evidence for it. Evidence that the Titan would certainly witness upon their arrival in the dark depths that house this vessel. And now for a brief commercial break.
From the evil one, deliver me.
From the evil one, deliver me.
At the hour of my death,
At the hour of my death,
call me and bid me to come to thee.
call me and bid me to come to thee.
Give me the compass. If you don't, we'll take her eyes. We'll take your family's eyes. We'll make this whole town blind.
From the evil one, deliver me.
From the evil one, deliver me.
At the hour of my death,
At the hour of my death,
Probably should have come here first.
come to thee.
call me and bid me.
Now, if you're not very keen on the Olympic sister ship being sunk under the guise of being the Titanic, maybe you'll find this more interesting. The American Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, was created on December 23rd, 1913, with the enactment of the Federal Reserve. This happened almost exactly 1 year after the sinking of the Titanic, and has led to many allegations of conspiracy. The Federal Reserve is one of the most important financial institutions in the world, and it is connected to the Titanic. The White Star Line had been owned since 1902, a company owned by J.P. Morgan, in his attempt to monopolize the shipping trade. It was also J.P. Morgan who forced the United States government into acting on a central banking plan during the bank panic of 1907, when Wall Street turned to J.P. Morgan for help. Morgan himself was set to board the Titanic for her maiden voyage, but canceled his trip at the last minute, along with his good friend, Milton Hersey. The maiden voyage of the Titanic did have three of the wealthiest Americans living at the time: Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus. At the time, it is said that J.P. Morgan was planning to form the Federal Reserve. These other three wealthy aristocrats strongly opposed him, and might have been the only three people standing in his way. If that's the case, it's quite suspicious that he would plan a voyage with them and himself, and then at the last minute back out. Coincidentally, a voyage where these three men who opposed him perished. Both these conspiracy theories do have a lot of evidence to support them. However, obviously they don't have enough evidence to be considered proved. But anytime people die mysteriously, it does make one wonder. Also, why would the captain of the Titanic, and previously the Olympic, agree to go down in this conspiracy on the sinking ship? Well, what if he didn't? What if he was in on it? Many stories resound as to the heroism of Captain Smith as he sunk with the ship. For a while there was a claim that he saved a baby just before going down with the ship himself. However, none of this has ever been corroborated or proven. And in fact, Captain Smith's body was never recovered. More suspiciously even was the New York Times article on Sunday, 21st of July, 1912. Baltimore Mariner declares he met Titanic commander on street, Baltimore, Maryland. July 20th. Captain Peter Pryall, one of the oldest mariners in Baltimore and well known in the shipping circles, who sailed with Captain Smith of the Titanic when Captain Smith was commander of the Majestic, made a startling statement today that he saw and talked to Captain Smith yesterday at Baltimore and St. Paul streets. He declared he walked up to Captain Smith and said, "Captain Smith, how are you?" Then, according to Pryall, the man answered, "Very well, Pryall, but please don't detain me. I'm on business." He says he followed the man, saw him buy a ticket for Washington, and as he passed through the gate of the railroad station, he turned, recognized Pryall again, and remarked, "Be good, shipmate, until we meet again." "There is no possibility of my being mistaken," said Captain Pryall. "I have known Captain Smith too long. I would know him even without his beard. I firmly believe that he was saved and in some mysterious manner brought to this country. I am willing to swear to my statement. Many persons think I am insane, but I have told Dr. Warfield of the occurrence, and he will vouch for my sanity. Dr. Warfield said tonight that Captain Pryall was perfectly sane. The captain is well-to-do and is a consistent church member. Captain Peter Pryall was a very well-respected man. There's no reason to doubt his testimony. He was a trusted member of the industry and well thought of. So why would he lie? So perhaps the captain of the Titanic survived. Perhaps he knew of a conspiracy. Perhaps he was involved in the conspiracy. Now, could either of these financial motives be enough for J.P. Morgan, for the Rothschilds to work together to sink the Titanic? The only way to find out would be to see the Titanic, to inspect the Titanic with vessels like the Titan. But unfortunately, now that that vessel has sunk, it's less likely that others will go down to investigate. What do you think, everyone? Is the sinking of the Titan a sad accident, a disaster, or was it on purpose, deliberate, murderous? I'm guessing we'll never know, but I wish I did. Thank you for watching Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, as we'll be uploading more regularly.